I'm not going to go into depth with that, but we've been highly recognized for our character ed program at a national level. And it's really a great program, and our club is highly active. Lots of students, and you can grab them as fifth graders is when you want to get them in because they want to be involved in something. Our Junior Optimist Club started maybe 18 years ago in our school. We have over 200 students in the Junior Optimist Club. Vast majority start as fifth and sixth graders and then work their way through. Service-oriented club. They actually run a school store, which is a very active store. It's great. Do all kinds of community service. Our Optimist Club in our district area is a really positive club. So that's been good for our students. Our drama club, and I understand you have a good drama club in your schools here too. Our drama club is a big draw. We turn no one away. So we might have a drama production, and it will have 200 students in it. And I have I'm not the principal anymore, we had two great drama people who ran the club, and it's phenomenal. So that's a catch. Boys and girls alike for that. Student council, we have band, orchestra, and chorus. We have a exclusive fifth grade band, and we have a fifth, sixth grade orchestra, and we have a specific fifth and sixth grade chorus. We also have handbells, so we kids have some choices there. The Create Club, and we're pretty proud of this. This is a club that was student generated about 7 or 8 years ago. It stands for Cultural Respect, Empathy, Appreciation, Tolerance, and Education. Our demographics have changed greatly in our school district over the past 10 years. And with that, your district and school takes on a different look. And what we needed to do was make sure all our students felt comfortable in our school. Really part of our character ed program, but a student who's now he's a high school senior came to me and said, I want to form a club. And we talked, and I said, well, if you want to do it, we have to get teachers to help sponsor. So we had some teacher volunteers, and what they did is they formed this club, which now is also carried into the high school. It's phenomenal, with giving our various minority groups of all types the opportunity to be involved in a club and feel like they're part of our school. And the feeling that they have is great, and that's a good club for us. About 4 years ago, we brought in one of the best people in the state to run our tech ed program. We had to change to get in the 21st century. So we have a technology student association club and a robotics club. In fact, we just came back and we had 7 of our students were state champions in the competition this past weekend. That is a relatively new club, but again, we draw in 5th and 6th graders quickly, and then it carries through. Now that program is carried into our high school this past year. So it's about involvement in the middle school, and that's a draw why students want to come to the middle school from our elementaries. The other thing that we do, and I think you do it here because you're probably pretty close to Horsham. We go to college settlement camp, and this trip's been in place over 40 years. And it happens in May. We finally got a nice time. We were able to get to a May date instead of a colder date in March. All our 5th graders go out in two different groups now. We used to do 3, we're down to 2. But they spend 2 nights out at outdoor school. It's a great way to culminate their 5th grade experience. And what it does is when we do our moving up ceremony every year at 8th grade, it's amazing that when the students speak, they talk about the camping experience as 5th graders. So it's something for them to look forward to, that is our 5th grade activity, and it's been highly successful. In fact, due to budget constraints, they technically cut camping. But the teachers, and I give them credit, it's a great staff, they were going to make it work. They're not going to let it die. So they're actually going out, and we're still running it, and the teachers now are doing it at no cost. I don't think they're getting paid. which I give them credit for wanting to do that. We feel that strongly about our programs. So that's that. Some key points, and I'm getting close to the end here, and this would be for parents and for teachers. What are some key points that I see that I get questions on? I mentioned it earlier that all fifth grade students eat lunch at the same time. That is great for socialization. I don't know what kind of tables you have in your cafeteria, if you have long or round. I had the students choose what they liked when I was able to buy new tables. They like round tables. They seat 8. Stools are attached. It's great for socialization, and that is huge. And that's really good for fifth graders to socialize, as it's a melting pot, as it would be here in sixth grade. Ours is fifth grade from the 4 elementary schools coming together. The other thing that is very important in a building is how we control student movement. One of the things that parents are concerned with and teachers were concerned with earlier on, and so was I as principal, is when students are moving a building, we have to control interactions between students. So we do have some traffic patterns. We don't have specific ones. We have recommended patterns for the students. Because what we found, similar to the buses, is when fifth graders cross with seventh or eighth graders, which is only during the unified arts times, when they're going in other parts of the building, what is very interesting is, again, fifth graders and other grades tend to ignore each other. Don't know why, but they do. Now, if you have a crowded area because you're not controlling movement, that's a problem, because middle school kids tend to like to touch each other if they're in close proximity. But we don't have that problem because of how we have the patterns set up, so it works for us well in the building. So that's one thing to think about when you're looking at student movement within your building. The first week of school is very important for fifth graders, as it would be for sixth graders also coming into your school as a middle school. For us, we know, our teachers are veterans at this. Our fifth grade teachers know exactly how to handle it. We know what the problems are going to be. The students are walked to the unified arts areas the first week of rotation because they think they know the building, but they don't. So we walk them around for the first rotation, sometimes the second rotation, and then after that, the students know exactly where they're going to go. We know the lockers will be a concern initially. We take care of that. We know that lunch is a concern. And you go from a cafeteria in elementary school to a 300-person cafeteria in a middle school. We teach them that you have to be quick, and we have a beautiful cafeteria with unbelievable food, so the kids think they're like at the mall at the food court. But you got to move, you got to be fast, you got to do it. So we have that and get them used to the time frame to eat and how much money you can spend and that type of thing. But again, we handle some of that in transition with our food service director during transition meetings with parents and students in May and August. I mentioned student involvement. It's critical to get students involved, and we encourage that from the first time we meet the students. The other part of our transition program, which is highly successful, which it would be if you're going 5, 6, or 4 or 5, but I think it's even more critical in a 4 or 5, is you must provide opportunities for the students to be in the middle school before they get there. And we have our drama production during the day, specifically for 4th grade, so they get a chance to come over on buses, sit in the auditorium, see it, and then when the production's over, we have Q&A with the kids talking to the 4th grade students, encouraging them to become involved. We also do an annual art festival. Elementary students come over during the day, get a chance to be in the middle school. We do what a lot of schools do. We still have the pen pal situation set up with specific 4th graders and 5th graders at the elementary and middle schools. And then we have the elementary school specific, one elementary a day, come over, meet their pen pals, and follow them for half a day through lunch and through their unified arts and through some academic periods. So they get a chance to feel what it's like in the bigness of the middle school. Then we do a May transition evening with parents and students. where they see a lot of a PowerPoint, Q&A, and then after that, they tour the building. School store is open at that time. Food services director is there. Our transportation supervisor is there. We answer every question that anyone could possibly have. Review schedule in detail. In August, the transition is a repeat, but now students have a schedule in hand, an actual schedule. That'll give them a chance to actually tour the building. Some of our fifth grade teachers come in. They get to meet the teachers, go to their classrooms informally. And it really makes for a very smooth transition when they arrive the first day in September. I mentioned our Character Ed program. I'm not going to spend any more time on it other than to say that if you're going to do any successful middle level school, I think any school in general, but middle level specifically, you need to have a strong Character Ed program. We implemented this program, started in 2001. It's a long time ago. It took us a lot of years to really get total buy-in of staff, of students, of parents, to a point where our district now is a community caring district, where we were the only school for a long time. And again, we were nationally recognized for that. What we've created in this middle school model in a 5-8 setting is a building that if you walk in it, and any good school this would be the case, you walk into school, you can feel that it's a pleasant place to be. And when your superintendent and assistant superintendent came in to visit, I said, you know, I'm going to take you down in a fifth grade wing. Not prompted, because no one knew I was even meeting. It's not my building anymore. But we met in the middle school, and I said, you know, before you go, I want to take you for a walk down in the fifth grade wing. The kids are in classes. So I went in. I think we went in 2 or 3 classes. So now the fifth graders don't all know me, because I'm not their principal. But some of them do, because my wife teaches in the district, and they see me in the buildings. But I said, all right, let's ask the question. How many of you would rather be back in your elementary school or here at the middle school? No setup. It was unanimous. They all want to be in the middle school. So I said, well, that's one class. I could have set that one up. We went down the hall. We went to another room, all the way at the opposite end. Asked the class. We got the same response. It's very interesting. It's about student-centered. It's not about how we feel as adults all the time. It's really about what's best for students. And if you make it a pleasant environment, you do the right things, your programming matches the student needs, you can make it work. So for us, it's been highly successful, and I'm proud of it. I mean, the excitement, I am excited about our school because I think that when we finally were recognized by outside groups, that means something. Also, a little addition, through the years, I've probably done a dozen visits from other districts, from not just in the state, but sometimes nationally, that come in and want to see how we do this model. To look and see. Now, it doesn't like they don't steal it. I don't expect Neshaminy to say, we're going to take Upper Marion's model, if that's what you choose to do, and use it. No. It's just ideas of what are common characteristics of successful schools and successful 5-8 middle schools. Oh, I got more, too much. Create a safe and secure school environment. That's a question I get from parents. How to do that? Our Character Ed program, it's extremely safe. All schools are today. You can't guarantee anything, but obviously security is on everyone's mind. And it's a great opportunity to expand friendships, which I talked about. I could go on for hours, but I don't want to. But any questions that either board members, committee members have?
Let's start with the committee, but let me just say how much I appreciate this. This is for a superintendent sometimes the worst decision you have to make. Do you take a guy who clearly loves his building and he says he's not the principal anymore? You walk down through the halls with him, he forgets that he's in central office. He's clearly proud of what he's done. I know. So to take him out of that environment must have been a tough one. Gloria, do you want to?
Certainly. Does any board members have questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Adeletto?
I just, my big worry is the discipline problems. I'm sorry. My big problem, or my big question always is discipline, bullying. Do you think that's a product of demographics? Do you think that's an issue that a specific type of program can head off? I worry about kids who feel like they're threatened, or they feel like they're uncomfortable in a situation. Now, it sounds like you've really got that down cold. So I'd be interested to know in what it is you do that makes that work.
Oh, that's a great question. I get this question. That's probably one of the first questions, along with safety and security, that I get at a transition meeting. As far as bullying is concerned, and I mention this all the time, and I would say this if it was Upper Merion, bullying exists in every school. If any principal says it doesn't, they're not telling the truth. And we have the middle school is a great school in Upper Merion, but bullying exists, but it's not prevalent. What you do is you have to be preventative. You don't want to be reactive. So part of what I mentioned in the presentation is a character ed program is critical. You want to talk about how you want your students to act, how you want your staff to act, how you want to act as administrators. You want students to be able to speak up. Bystanders, if they're witnesses to any bullying, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. You want to have students, if they feel uncomfortable, to be able to share that with mom or dad, or to come to school and share it with their teacher, or the principal, or a counselor. And we've set that environment up. I will say this, that you must set a tone, as any good school will do, and that is that you have to set a tone that bullying is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. You know it's going to happen. But initially with 5th and 6th graders, one of the things that we do, and I think it needs to be done, is that you don't handle it exactly the same way you handle it in a high school situation or even in 7th and 8th grade. 5th and 6th graders are a little bit different. It's all about learning. It's all about experiencing. They're growing. They're changing. What is bullying today is considered in some cases by people it's not really bullying, but it's some things that happened when we were all children. Not that it's right, but it's really not bullying. Students don't understand what they do or what they say and how it hurts people, because much of the bullying is not physical. Much of it is verbal. So we work with that, and again, we talked about community of caring. We talked about a Create Club. As demographics change, understanding cultures of different people, understanding religions of different people, understanding how we want to be collaborative. And one quote that we have when we were our national school of character and they visited our school, the first young lady that was approached by one of our visitors was asked about the school. And she said, we're not a school made up of races. We're one race, the human race, in our school. That was really powerful. And we have that quote today that we use. So again, does it exist? Yes. Do you control it? Oh, yeah, you definitely can. There are schools that bullying is an issue. But again, how we handle it is preventative as best we can. But that's a great question.
Thank you. I like that. Really appreciate that presentation. One thought came to mind here, and I've been asked this by my sister, so I have to come up with a. What would you say? I'm thinking this might be hard to answer because it seems like this has become part of your culture for so long now. But did you see any adverse effect on the 5th graders when you first moved them up? I mean, was there in their academic performance?
You know, that's a really good question. That's hard to say because statewide, if we're looking at academic performance based on PSSA scores, unfortunately across the state, 5th grade scores tend to be a little bit lower. That's one thing because we've investigated that. That's been a concern that we've had. But no, academically, the concerns that we would get is, well, what's it going to be like for homework? Is it going to be that much different? Now, remember that as teachers and teachers that are out there listening to this, you're still an elementary teacher when you're teaching 5th and 6th grade. And the philosophy that the teachers have as far as an elementary philosophy still pretty much exists. You're nurturing, but you're also letting go a little bit more. So we still have demands, but we have found that the academic performance has not been adversely affected. One of the things that you will see, and you'll see it in any school, is as you move through the grades, some students do begin to struggle at some point. Now, we see it, beyond honesty, in 6th grade, not in 5th as much. But I think that's more of a common theme that we have found. But no, I think that because we still consider it a very similar to an elementary schedule. They have minimal teachers, 3 academics. They're still in longer periods. Now, they might have 2 teachers that they deal with academic in an elementary school. But for the most part, it is seen to be a good situation. And it eases them into going from 1 or 2 teachers to 3, plus their unified arts. Then in upper house, they go to 4-member teams. Then, of course, in a high school, they have a different teacher from us, everything they have. So, no, I don't think academically it's been a concern. But we've had that discussion. But we can't pinpoint anything that would say, would they do better in an elementary setting? No. Welcome.
Thank you very much again for coming and presenting. One of the questions that I had relate around what you've been able to do with the middle school model. Part of the emphasis for our committee when we thought about this 5 to 8 model, originally stemmed out of a facilities issue. But then we started to look at the the needs of the district. When we moved 9th grade out of our middle school a few years ago, I mean, the model pretty much stayed the same. We didn't take the opportunity at that time to look at the curriculum and how it could be redeveloped. In moving 5th graders into a pseudo middle school format, what other educational opportunities do you see for them versus being in a traditional elementary school?
Beyond the academics, I think. One of the things, I mean, they have math, they have language arts, they get the science social studies in an elementary setting. That doesn't change. Traditionally in elementary schools, the special areas, because teachers are usually shared buildings and so on, are somewhat restricted on what you can do. When students come to the middle school, beyond the academics, they're exposed to the art and the music, computer classes, the PE and health, and one of the big ones is the technology program, the technology ed program. We're able to get our students involved in the tech ed program as 5th graders. In fact, we're tweaking that again next year because we're finding ways to better deliver that to our entire student body. It's amazing to give an opportunity for a 5th grade student to be involved in a robotics club, to be involved in a lab that is highly technical. We spent some money to put the lab together with software, with special printer, to materials that were required. And the students light up because they have opportunities to do things they could not do in the elementary school, because physically you can't set up labs like that for 5 or 6 schools. But you can do it for 1 or 2 or 3 middle schools if that's what you choose to do. So the opportunities are great there. And the other things I mentioned were some of those other activities that students get involved in. What you do is students are ready, we found, in 5th grade in our district, to be able to expand beyond their elementary environment. And I thought about this while I was having dinner tonight, that just as sometimes 4th graders are ready to move on to something a little bit different, it's no different when our 8th graders, by the time they're finished our middle school, they're ready for a different experience also in a high school. So, we just provide it's different. It's not 5th grade in a middle school for the sake of doing it. The program looks different. The offerings are different. The involvement and activities are different. And again, the interaction with a lot more students at 1 year sooner. That seems to have worked for us. I hope that answers the question.
Just quickly. Thank you for coming. I think you've answered a lot of questions and concerns that I've had, and hopefully the audience. When you move between each module, you actually physically move class to class? Okay, I was wondering. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, just to be clarified, the students do move. Now, the teams are right around each other. The academic team, the three rooms are together, either in a line or some across the hall from each other. So students do move, and of course, their lockers are right there too. We have it designed where we have enough lockers for students outside those rooms. When they do go outside to the Unified Arts or to lunch, they move, but our fifth graders are the closest students to the cafeteria. So they're not like running, because fifth graders, by the way, do run. That is one thing I didn't mention. They still run even today, this time of year. I joke with them. I said, see, the eighth graders, I tell them, see, they love school. They love to go to class as you're strolling to class. We limit that movement, but they do move, and they like that. See, I think anyone who knows elementary students, they're alive. Fifth and sixth graders are alive. They keep you busy, and they move. Seventh and eighth graders tend to slow it up. They're prepping for high school, so they could slow it up. And so we have that differences, and you allow for that. And the movement they seem to need, to be honest, rather than coop them up in a small school. Our elementary schools are rather small, so our middle school is huge. It's 333,000 square feet. So these kids are all over, and they love it. And I don't joke about this, no one leaves. People say, well, don't kids walk out the door? No one's ever left, and my line to the parents is it's too good inside for them to want to go. And we don't have anything close by for them to go to, which is also good. The older kids would take a trip to the mall once in a while, but not often.
This before. I had a question about when they move. Do they move as the same classroom, or do they swap out classrooms, and are they tracked or anything like that?
No, we're not tracked. We are heterogeneously grouped. We do have some acceleration for math that happens. But when they go out to the Unified Arts, they actually cross-team. So while they're on their academic teams, the group pretty much travels together because it's heterogeneously grouped. But when they go out to Unified Arts, all fifth graders go at the same time. That allows for common team time and common prep time. So what happens is they will mix with other teams of students, which allows them, again, to expand their friends. And then, of course, they do it again at lunch.
Okay.
That's a good question.
And then just another comment. I have a fifth grader now who would probably love all the activities after school because she's kind of bored in kids club and has been bored for the entire year because she only has one other girl in the fifth grade because a lot of kids go home. So I think I'm probably one of the only ones that is kind of looking forward to this move if we go this way, but unfortunately I'm the minority. I'm hearing from other parents.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I have two questions. When the building that, you may have mentioned this earlier, I wasn't here earlier, the building, was it built with a 5/8 in mind before you transferred it, had that model? Or was it an old building?
No, that's a good question. The original building, when we went to middle school, was built as a junior high, but it was added on to. It wasn't a clean building to begin with. But in reality, it was broken up because it had an addition in the back where we housed the lower house. But it was not good for overall movement. Now, we made it work, but we had problems with traffic control at two specific intersections in our old school. So we were very lucky to be able to build a new school. And when we built a new school, we built it primarily knowing that we were going to do 5 through 8. But most buildings can be adjusted to fit whatever configuration you want. The thing becomes, when you don't have a building specifically designed for it, becomes how you manage traffic, as I mentioned earlier. What kind of patterns would you want to set up? You could vary your time schedule, which we used to do in the old building, like maybe a 5-minute difference between lower house or